Hello. My name's Sammy. I know we've already met, and you've already met Penny. So I'm going to be your designated school official. So if you ever have any questions about your F-1 status, traveling, if you lose your I-20, I'm the main person you can contact. Of course, you can ask anybody here. Claudia is also a DSO, and then Penny is Director of Admissions and Registrar. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them too. But just like officially, I am your designated school official. So we did on Friday your check-in with the Office of Admissions. So I registered you in CVIS, which is why I gave you that new I-20, and you're enrolled in classes. So you're all set on that end. You made your payment, and then Claudia gave you your student login and email, right? And then we got your insurance. Did we do insurance? We did. We did insurance during the application. So while you are here at CIAM, you are required to be always taking 2 classes at a time because that's a full-time student, and you have to maintain your full-time status in order to maintain your visa. You have to attend classes in person and on time. If there's a situation where you might miss a class, talk to the professor beforehand, and they'll figure out a way for you to make up the class time. Sometimes they'll tell you just to watch the lectures online. Sometimes they'll tell you we'll set aside another meeting time, and that's okay. But missing a bunch of classes in a row and not telling anybody why or where you are could cause you to lose your F-1 status. Reduced course load can only happen in a couple of instances where you drop below the 2 classes at a time. It can happen if you have a medical emergency and you have a doctor's note saying you can't be a full-time student. Let's say you broke your arm and you're in a hospital bed. Obviously you can't attend classes. So in situations like that, you are allowed to drop below. The other one is if you find yourself within the first class unprepared for the rate of study in a U.S. class, or the unprepared English-wise, which I'm not foreseeing any problems for you, so I don't think that will happen. But that is another situation where you're allowed to drop below 2 classes for only that first term. And then the last one is if in your last term you only have 1 class left before you can graduate, you're allowed to only take that 1 class. But we have it set up so that you shouldn't really run into that issue. You have to maintain a 3.0 cumulative GPA throughout the entire program. If you drop below that, then you need to have discussions with the dean, and it could cause some issues with your I-20. So be a good student. If you need to travel inside the U.S., everything's fine. Just make sure you bring your visa and your I-20 and all your identifying papers with you, so that if you run into any issues, you can prove that you're supposed to be here. Outside the U.S., you need to come to me so I can give you a travel signature on the I-20. Yeah. If you're going to another country that also needs a travel visa, you need to look into wherever you're going to see if you need to get a visa for them too, because I know some of them require that you have the travel visa. So just because you have a visa to visit here doesn't mean you have a visa to visit everywhere in the world. Basically, I know that seems like common sense, but some people don't. There's certain situations for automatic visa revalidation that mostly has to do with Canada and Mexico, so I don't think it applies to your Philippines situation. But again, whenever you're traveling outside the U.S. to come back in, make sure you have your visa, passport, I-20 valid and with you at all times for when dealing with port authorities. Employment. So I know that we've discussed a little bit with you already about the non-federal work study. You can work on campus in our non-federal work study position. So I don't know if you've gotten your application in. Yes, okay, good. So that's available. You're not allowed to work off campus. You're not allowed to do an internship or anything like that, because that would violate your F1 status. Volunteering is a tricky situation. If you are bored on the weekends and you want to go volunteer at the local animal shelter, just like walking around the dogs, like that's okay because it's like a strictly voluntary situation. But if you are volunteering at a bank and like attending work from 9 to 5 every day in like a volunteer position, they consider that like an unpaid internship and like work, and then you could get into some tricky situations. So just be careful if you are volunteering, and make sure that it's like maybe once a month I go do this, and it's just doing it for my free time, and you're not getting paid, and you're not having like any timesheets or anything like that. And the only situation where you can work off campus is if you hit severe economic hardship. So let's say like all of a sudden the Philippines hit like this severe money things, or your family falls on hard times, and something happens and you can no longer afford the tuition. Knock on wood, let's hope that doesn't happen. Then you would be allowed to work off campus, but it would have to get approved through me and then through CVIS. And there's a lot of steps to take for that. I was just reading through it the other day. But let's hope that doesn't happen. And that's why we do the bank statement at the beginning, to make sure that you'll be able to afford to feed yourself while also going to school, because that's important. F2, you don't have any dependents. These are some links. I think I sent them to you via email before, but they're really great resources. If you ever find yourself like, what can or can't I do, and you're not really sure, Study in the States is a great resource put on by the government. It's a government website that'll pretty much answer any question you could ever think of. I go there a lot. So they're a great resource if you ever have any questions. Again, contact, that's me. This is the classroom number. I encourage you to write this down and stick it in your phone now. If you ever on a Saturday get locked outside the classroom downstairs, because the doors will be locked downstairs, call that number and this phone will ring. If you call the normal 350-1500 number, the other phones will ring, and nobody in the class ever answers those phones. Okay. So if you're ever let's say you're downstairs and the door's locked and you need to get back up here, or that's the number you want to call. And then I think you've gotten these emails, or you were about to get these emails from Claudia. But there's the dean email, that's Claudia's email, and then there's a registrar email. If you have any questions about enrolling with classes, you would do the registrar one. If you have any questions about career services, then you contact Claudia. If you ever have a question for the dean, you can contact the dean. But if you have any F1 questions, then you contact me. And I think that's it.